Beneath a fiery sunset, a black woman stands by her car, a desperate Pentagon distress call echoing from her phone. Suddenly, handcuffs snap tight and a cop's mocking laugh rings out. "Who do you think you are?" They don't realize they've just ignited a storm of justice. A major general humiliated for her skin, but the truth will make them pay. A tale of dignity and accountability starts now. Like, share, and subscribe to follow this journey for justice. Under the fading Louisiana sun, the Greystone outskirts painted a serene picture, with red dirt roads winding through tall grasslands and ancient oaks. Major General Abigail Harper, 42, a black woman with 25 years of service in the U.S. Army, drove a rented silver sedan along Highway 171 toward Barksdale Air Force Base. No entourage, no flashing lights, just her, a modest car, and a classified mission awaiting. Abigail, her short hair tucked under a baseball cap, wore jeans, a gray jacket, and worn sneakers, blending in like any traveler. But her mind was on the upcoming Barksdale meeting, a critical discussion on Pacific military operations. She glanced at her watch. Time was tight. As her secure phone signal flickered, bars flashing weakly, Abigail frowned. She needed an immediate Pentagon connection for a final briefing. "Can't wait," she muttered, scanning for a stop. Ahead, a run-down gas station emerged, its faded Pete's Fuel Stop sign swaying in the breeze. The gravel lot was uneven, dotted with pickup trucks near the pumps where a group of locals laughed loudly in the humid afternoon heat. Abigail pulled into a secluded corner by a rusty dumpster, away from the crowd. Stepping out, she breathed the heavy air and dialed her secure phone. "Major General Harper, identity verified. Begin report," she said, voice low and professional. On the other end, a Pentagon officer responded crisply. "Confirmed, General. Initiating data transfer. Force positions in Southeast Asia." Leaning against her car, Abigail's West Point-honed instincts kept her eyes sweeping the lot. She noticed curious glances from the group by the pumps, 3 men in warm plaid shirts sipping beers and swapping stories. One, with a scruffy beard, stared at her, whispering to his friend, both chuckling. Abigail ignored them. She was used to such looks, judgments based not on her rank or achievements, but on her skin color. Today, she had no time for prejudice. The call carried sensitive data, special forces movements, new comms codes, known only to a select few nationwide. "Understood," she replied, voice steady. "Proceed. I need details on the exfil route." Inside the station, behind the grimy counter, Helen Carter, a 60-year-old with silver hair tied tight and eyes sharp as knives, watched Abigail through the streaked glass. Helen's face, etched with wrinkles from years of scowling, judged everyone through a narrow lens. To her, Abigail wasn't a decorated general who'd led thousands in high-stakes missions. She was just a black woman, alone, on a fancy phone, looking suspicious. "What's she doing out there?" Helen muttered, arms crossed. "Doesn't belong here, probably up to something shady." Helen grabbed the landline, dialing the Greystone Sheriff's Office. "Hello, police?" she hissed, glancing to ensure no customers overheard. "There's a strange woman in the parking lot by the pumps. Looks real suspicious, holding a big phone, talking all secretive. Could be drugs or something. You'd better check it out." Hanging up without waiting for a reply, a smug smile curled her lips. Miles away, at the Greystone Sheriff's Office, deputies Jake Thornton and Matt Reeves lounged in a cramped room reeking of stale coffee. Jake, 34, burly with a buzz cut and a faint scar on his chin from an old brawl, caught the call on the radio. "Another paranoid old lady," he scoffed, but his eyes lit up. Greystone was a sleepy town where parking tickets were the biggest action. This call was a chance to stir things up. Matt, 28, leaner, with messy blonde hair and a reckless glint, slapped the desk. "Let's roll, Jake. Maybe we'll nab a kingpin," he mocked, slipping on sunglasses. "All right, let's see who this suspect is," Jake said, standing and checking his holster. They hopped into their patrol car, lights flashing, siren blaring as they sped through Greystone's quiet streets. In the car, Matt laughed. "Bet she's just lost, but who knows, Jake? Could be our big break." Jake smirked, flooring the gas. "A break? In this town? Dream on. But it beats boredom." They had no idea their hasty decision was about to unleash an unstoppable storm. Meanwhile, Abigail stood by her car, focused on the call. The Pentagon officer continued. "New intel on insurgent groups in the region. We need you to confirm safe routes for the Spec Ops team." Abigail nodded, unseen. "I need all data by 1800. Any changes?" she asked, voice sharp. Suddenly, one of the men from the pump group ambled closer, beer can in hand, eyes mixing curiosity with hostility. "Hey, lady," he slurred. "Who you talking to all sneaky like? Ain't from around here, are ya?" Abigail turned, her gaze calm but piercing. "I'm working, sir. Just a business call." "Work?" The man laughed, glancing back at his friends. "Hear that, Bob? Work at this gas station." The others joined in, their laughter an ominous prelude. Abigail gripped her phone tighter, staying focused. "Keep going," she said into the device, voice lower, ignoring the group. But a creeping unease stirred within her. She'd faced prejudice before, suspicious stares, unwarranted questions, but something about Greystone felt heavier, like a storm brewing. Unbeknownst to her, Helen's rash call and the deputy's eagerness had set fate's wheels in motion, drawing her into a confrontation she didn't seek, but would never back down from. The air at Pete's fuel stop grew heavy, as if Louisiana's humid heat was tightening its grip on everyone present. Abigail Harper leaned against her rented sedan, ear pressed to her secure phone, the Pentagon officer's steady voice relaying details of an upcoming operation. She tried to focus, but the stares from the group by the pumps, men with beer cans and mocking smirks, were hard to ignore. One, in a frayed plaid shirt, took a step closer, his shrill voice cutting through her thoughts. "Hey, lady, what's with the sneaky business? Hiding from someone?" Abigail kept her tone calm, eyes fixed on a distant point. "I'm working, just a routine call." "Routine?" The man laughed, turning to his buddies. "Listen to her, like she's ordering pizza." Their laughter sliced through the air, sharp as a blade. Abigail gripped her phone tighter, trying to tune them out. "Proceed," she said into the device, voice lower. "I need details on the support team." But before the Pentagon officer could respond, red and blue lights flashed in the distance, reflecting off the station's grimy windows. Two patrol cars roared into the lot, gravel spraying like a small storm. Abigail lowered her phone, eyes narrowing, sensing the shift in the air, a tempest brewing. She set the phone on the car's hood, moving slowly to avoid any misstep. Two deputies stepped out, their strides menacing. Jake Thornton, tall, buzz-cut, hand already on his holster, eyed her like she was guilty before trial. Matt Reeves, younger, with messy blonde hair, seemed eager, like a hound catching a scent. The pump crowd went quiet, their curious gazes shifting between Abigail and the deputies. Some pulled out phones, filming, anticipating a spectacle. Jake barked, "ID, now!" Abigail raised her hands, palms open, voice steady but firm. "I'm active duty military, on assignment. My military ID and orders are in my wallet. I'll retrieve them." She reached slowly for her back pocket, but Matt cut in, voice dripping with sarcasm. "Military? You think we're kids who'll buy that? Hand over the ID, no tricks." Abigail produced her wallet, pulling out her military ID and a folded federal order sheet stamped with an official seal. She offered them, hand steady. Here's my identification. You can verify it." Jake snatched the ID, glancing at it before tossing it onto the hood, the orders fluttering to the ground. "Fake," he said coldly. "Think this junk fools anyone?" A hot surge rose in Abigail's chest, but she reined it in, voice even. "Officer, those are real. I suggest you contact your superiors to confirm. This is critical." Matt scoffed, stepping closer, his breath reeking of stale coffee. "Critical? Know what's critical? You causing trouble in our town. Spill it. Who are you and what are you doing here?" "I've stated clearly," Abigail replied, locking eyes with him. "I'm a military officer on duty. You're making a mistake." "Mistake?" Jake laughed, the sound harsh in the lot. "You're the one who messed up, thinking you could play us. Turn around, hands behind your back." Abigail didn't move, not out of defiance, but from a deeper indignation forged through years of facing bias. She stared at Jake, voice sharp as a blade. "You're overstepping your authority. I demand to speak with your supervisor, now." Jake glared, gripping metal handcuffs. "Demand? You don't get to demand anything here." The crowd had grown, some whispering, others chuckling. A young woman, likely a station worker, stood near the door, phone raised, recording. Inside, Helen Carter crossed her arms, eyes gleaming with smugness. "Told you," she muttered to a nearby customer. "Her type always causes trouble." Matt pointed at Abigail's face. "Listen, don't make this worse. Turn around or we'll arrest you for resisting." Abigail stood firm, gaze unwavering. "I'm not resisting. I'm asking you to follow procedure. Verify my ID, call your superiors. You'll see how wrong you are." Jake's patience snapped. He lunged, grabbing her arm and twisting it behind her back. Abigail clenched her teeth, pain shooting from her wrist, but she stayed silent. Matt cuffed her other hand, tightening the metal until it bit into her skin, leaving red marks. The secure phone clattered to the ground, its screen flickering before going dark. The Pentagon officer's voice, now cut off, echoed faintly. "Harper, report status. Harper?" Jake shoved her against the car, the impact rattling the door. The crowd murmured, some gasping, but no one intervened. Matt grinned, turning to the onlookers like a showman. "Done. Who's next?" Abigail, back pressed against the hot metal, stared at the station's filthy glass. Her reflection, a woman who'd led thousands, warped in the grime. In that moment, humiliation stung, not from the cuffs, but from the raw injustice of being seen as a criminal. Yet deep within, she knew this wasn't the end. At the Pentagon, hundreds of miles away, Lieutenant Colonel Rachel Nguyen stared at a blinking red signal on her screen. Background noise, shouting, metal clinking, then silence. "General, do you copy? Report now," she shouted into the mic. No response. She spun to Colonel Marcus Webb, striding into the ops room. "Locate her," Marcus ordered, voice sharp. A technician typed rapidly, a map pinging. "Pete's Fuel Stop, Highway 171, Greystone." Marcus clenched his fist. "Contact Barksdale. Get Jag on the line. If she's in trouble, we move now." Back at the station, Abigail was forced to sit on the curb, wrists still cuffed. Jake loomed over her, voice mocking. "Think you're some general? Save it." Abigail looked up, fearless. "I'm someone you'll have to explain to the Pentagon. You can still fix this. Call your supervisor." Matt laughed. "Tough talk. Around here, we're the law." Jake's radio crackled, cutting through. "Unit 3, confirmed detainment?" Jake replied, "Suspect detained, female, non-compliant." A pause, then an urgent voice. "Alert, subject is federal personnel, release immediately." Jake's face paled, his hand trembling. Abigail, still seated, met his eyes, her voice icy. "You just made a grave mistake, and now you'll pay." The parking lot of Pete's fuel stop was cloaked in an eerie silence, broken only by the crowd's murmurs and the pulsing red-blue lights from the patrol cars casting shadows on the walls. Abigail Harper sat on the curb, wrists raw from the metal cuffs, her gaze sharp and unyielding. Jake Thornton, the burly deputy, loomed over her, the radio's warning about a federal subject still ringing in his ears. His face paled, but his voice clung to bravado. "Listen up," he jabbed a finger at her. "Whoever you are, we're in charge here. Don't think you can scare us with that talk." Abigail looked up, her voice cold as steel. "In charge? You're digging yourself a deeper hole than you realize. Release me and call your supervisor, now." Matt Reeves, the younger deputy, stepped forward, eyes reckless. "Think you're a big deal? This ends when we say, not when you order us." He turned to the growing crowd, phones raised to capture every moment. "See this? She thinks she's some hotshot." A man in a worn t-shirt laughed loudly, probably a movie star. The chuckles spread, but not everyone joined in. A young woman, barely 20, near the station's door, frowned, her phone trembling. "They're going too far," she whispered to her friend, too timid to speak louder. Inside, Helen Carter stood with arms crossed, eyes gleaming with smugness. "Knew it," she told a customer, voice thick with pride. "Her kind always brings trouble." The customer, a middle-aged man in a baseball cap, nodded but hesitated, as if questioning whether something was off. Abigail, still on the curb, felt the weight of countless eyes. Some curious, some hostile, some just thrilled by the drama. She took a deep breath, holding her composure, but anger simmered within. Not from the cuffs, but from the stark injustice. Years of service, campaigns led, life-or-death decisions, all erased by the prejudice of those before her. She locked eyes with Jake. "You have 1 minute to fix this. Contact your supervisor, or the consequences will be beyond your imagination." Jake scoffed, but unease flickered in his eyes. "Consequences? Threatening cops now? Know where you are?" "I know exactly where I am," Abigail replied, her voice cutting like a blade. "And I know you're making a mistake that'll cost you your career." Matt snapped, voice shrill. "Enough. Shut it, or I'll haul you into the car right now." He lunged forward, fist clenched as if to grab her again. But before he could act, Jake's radio crackled, the voice more urgent than ever. "Unit 3, this is command. Release the subject immediately. Pentagon's on the line. You have 30 seconds to report." Matt froze, hand midair. Jake stumbled back, muttering, "What? The Pentagon?" He glanced at Abigail, as if realizing for the first time he'd gravely miscalculated. The crowd fell deathly silent, phones still recording, but no one dared speak. Abigail, still cuffed, raised her head, eyes fixed on Jake. "I warned you. Release me now, or this gets much worse." Jake fumbled, hands shaking as he pulled out the cuff key. All right, easy," he stammered, voice cracking. The cuffs clicked open, metal scraping, leaving red welts on Abigail's wrists. She stood slowly, rubbing her wrists, her gaze never leaving the deputies. "You just made a serious mistake," she said, voice low but commanding. "And this won't end here." She retrieved her secure phone from the ground, its cracked screen dark, connection lost. Sensitive data might have been compromised, and her fist clenched. She faced Jake and Matt, voice icy. "You didn't just disrespect me. You disrespected the system I serve, and that system doesn't forgive." Matt, clinging to defiance, growled, "Think you can scare us with that? This is Greystone. You've got no power here." Abigail stepped forward, her gaze searing. "Power? I don't need your power. I have the truth, and it will make you pay." The crowd stirred, some backing away, sensing the shift. The young woman by the door whispered to her friend, "She's not lying. Look how she carries herself. She's someone big." Helen's confidence wavered inside. "They let her go," she muttered, voice shaky. "But she must have done something wrong. Why else get cuffed?" The man in the cap turned, voice low. "You sure, Helen? Or did you just see what you wanted to?" Helen glared but stayed silent. At the Pentagon, the ops room crackled with tension. Lieutenant Colonel Rachel Newen stared at Abigail's dead signal. "She's not responding," she said, voice trembling. Colonel Marcus Webb behind her barked, "Activate emergency protocol. Send Barksdale security now. Get JAG on the line. I want lawyers there before this spirals." A technician typed furiously, a map pinging the gas station. "Location confirmed," he reported. "Barksdale team en route. ETA 5 minutes." Marcus's fist tightened. "If she's hurt, I'll make sure those responsible pay for the rest of their lives." Back at the station, Abigail stood tall, her gaze sweeping the crowd, then locking on Jake and Matt. "Last chance," she said, voice low but razor sharp. "Call your superiors or I'll do it for you." Jake clutched his radio, hesitating, but before he could respond, engines roared. A convoy of black SUVs screeched into the lot, dust swirling. The crowd parted, phones still raised, capturing the scene like an action movie. Abigail stood firm, unshaken, but inside, a fire of justice blazed. She knew this moment would change everything, not just for her, but for all who'd been wronged. The parking lot at Pete's fuel stop trembled with the roar of black SUVs, their tires grinding gravel into a swirling dust cloud. Military strobe lights sliced through the dusk, forcing the crowd to retreat, phones still raised, capturing a scene as if a real storm had descended. Abigail Harper stood tall, wrists raw from freshly removed cuffs, her gaze unwavering, a fire of justice blazing within. Deputies Jake Thornton and Matt Reeves froze, their eyes flickering between panic and defiance. Jake clutched his radio, hands trembling, while Matt's forced smirk betrayed his fading bravado. The convoy halted, doors swinging open in unison. A team from Barksdale Air Force Base stepped out, movements swift and professional. Leading them was Colonel Ethan Brooks, 45, lean and sharp-eyed, his pristine uniform crisp. He strode to Abigail, voice low but carrying across the lot. "Are you injured, ma'am?" Abigail shook her head, her tone calm yet commanding. "Just scrapes, Colonel. But these men," she glanced at Jake and Matt, "have inflicted a far greater wound on themselves." Ethan nodded, turning to the deputies. "You're suspended, effective immediately," he said, voice icy. "Any further actions will be treated as obstructing a federal investigation. Understood?" Jake stammered, grasping for control. "We were doing our job. She wasn't cooperating, and we—" "Not cooperating?" Ethan cut him off, stepping closer, his voice ablade. "She presented valid ID, clear as day. You chose not to believe her, and that's the dumbest move of your careers." Matt, clinging to defiance, interjected. "We didn't know. How could we? She didn't look like—" "Like what?" Abigail interrupted, taking a step forward, her gaze piercing. "Like someone with authority? Like someone who deserves respect? You saw me and judged based on your biases. That's your failure, not mine." The crowd fell silent, only the wind and camera clicks breaking the tension. The young woman by the station door, who'd filmed everything, whispered to her friend, "She's right, they didn't even check her papers." Her friend nodded, eyes full of admiration. Inside, Helen Carter's smugness faltered. She shrank back, masking her unease, her earlier confidence gone. "They let her go," she muttered to a customer, voice shaky. "But I still think she's trouble." The man in the baseball cap who'd questioned her before shot her a look of disdain. "You called the cops because she looked different? You started this, Helen. Hope you're proud." Her mouth opened, but no words came as she saw Barksdale's team form a protective wall around Abigail. At the Pentagon, the ops room buzzed with tension. Lieutenant Colonel Rachel Nyan hammered keys, trying to restore Abigail's signal. "Still nothing," she reported, voice tight. Colonel Marcus Webb, hands on hips, stared at the map pinpointing the gas station. "Is Barksdale there yet?" he demanded, voice sharp. A technician replied, "On site, sir. They're handling it. JAG's been notified, and justice is involved." Marcus's fist clenched. "Good. I want every detail documented. No one sweeps this under the rug." He turned to Rachel. "If she's harmed, I'll ensure those responsible have no place in the system." Back at the lot, Ethan signaled his team to escort Abigail to an SUV. She walked steadily, each step deliberate, feeling the weight of the moment. Not just personal insult, but a broader wound, shared by all wronged for their appearance or skin. As she neared the SUV, Lieutenant Clara Hayes, a young Barksdale officer, met her eyes with reverence. "We're here for you, ma'am," Clara said, softly but firmly. "This won't slide." Abigail nodded, a faint smile flickering. "Thank you, Lieutenant, but this isn't just about me. It's about all of us." Jake, a few yards away, tried one last defense, his voice cracking. "We didn't mean it. We thought she—" Ethan spun, eyes blazing. "Your thoughts don't matter. You had evidence, ID, orders, and ignored it. That's not a mistake, it's prejudice. Now you'll pay." Abigail climbed into the SUV, the door closing, but the crowd's murmurs lingered. An older man in a worn jacket shook his head, telling another, "Told you they were wrong. She's no ordinary woman. Look at how she stands." Helen retreated deeper into the station, dodging customers' suspicious glances. "I did the right thing," she mumbled, but her voice wavered. The SUV pulled away, leaving Jake and Matt in the dust. Jake turned to Matt, voice trembling. "We're done, Matt. The Pentagon, they won't let this go." Matt, still defiant, shrugged. "What can they do? We were just doing our job." But his voice faltered, eyes uneasy as the convoy vanished. Inside the SUV, Abigail sat quietly, staring out at the grasslands under the sunset. Ethan broke the silence. "The Pentagon's launching a full investigation, ma'am. Justice is on board. This won't end here." Abigail nodded, voice low but resolute. "I don't want it to end. People like them," she glanced back toward the station, "need to learn. Not just for me, but for everyone who's been treated this way." Ethan met her gaze, respect in his eyes. "What'll you say when the time comes?" Abigail's smile was fierce, not joyful, but determined. "The truth. That's all it takes to change everything." At the Pentagon, Rachel got word from Barksdale. Abigail is secure, en route to base. She exhaled, relieved, but Marcus didn't ease up. "Full report," he ordered. "Every detail, from the gas station clerk's call to the deputy's actions. This'll hit the press, and we'll ensure justice is done." In Greystone, the crowd dispersed, but the young woman's video had gone viral. Abigail's cuffed image, her calm yet commanding presence, spread like wildfire. A woman holding a handwritten "Justice for All" sign watched the convoy faded, whispering, "She'll change things, I know it." In the SUV, Abigail gripped her cracked phone. The real fight was just beginning. She was ready, not only to reclaim her dignity, but to ignite justice for the voiceless. The black SUV glided through golden fields under a fading Louisiana sunset, carrying Abigail Harper toward Barksdale Air Force Base. Inside, the air was heavy with resolve. Abigail sat upright, eyes fixed on the window, her mind reeling from the day's events. The cracked, secure phone in her hand, its shattered screen, was a stark reminder of the moment her dignity was trampled. Yet she refused to let outrage consume her. Instead, she was already planning her next move, one not just for herself, but for the millions who'd faced similar injustices. Colonel Ethan Brooks, beside her, glanced over, his voice low but firm. "We've contacted the Pentagon, ma'am. They're awaiting a full report. This won't be buried." Abigail nodded, her tone sharp yet measured. "I don't want it buried. What happened today needs to be seen, heard. Not for me, but for everyone else waiting for justice." Ethan offered a faint smile, eyes full of respect. "Will you speak? The press is gathering at Barksdale. The nation's waiting to hear you." "Speak?" Abigail turned, a spark of determination in her eyes. "I won't speak to please them. I'll speak to let the truth ring out, to ensure those like them never think they can get away with it." Meanwhile, at Pete's fuel stop, tension lingered. Jake Thornton and Matt Reeves stood by their patrol car, eyes hollow as the SUVs vanished in a dust cloud. The crowd began to disperse, but phones held videos of Abigail in cuffs, her calm voice contrasting the deputy's aggression. The young woman who filmed posted it online with the caption, "They were wrong. Justice must be served." Within hours, the video spread like wildfire, amassing thousands of shares and furious comments nationwide. At the Greystone Sheriff's Office, Sheriff Larry Thompson fielded an urgent call from his superior. "What have you done, Larry?" the voice roared. "The Pentagon's livid. You detained a major general." Larry, sweating, stammered, "We didn't know. She wasn't in uniform and—" "No excuses," the voice cut in. "You had her ID. Get ready, Larry. The press is coming and DOJ is involved." At Barksdale, Abigail entered a secure briefing room where military lawyers and Pentagon officials awaited. A young JAG officer, Lieutenant Maya Lin, handed her a file. "We drafted a statement, ma'am. It's designed to keep things controlled, avoid inflaming the public." Abigail skimmed it, then slid it aside. "Thank you, Lieutenant, but I don't need scripted words. I'll say what needs saying, my way." Maya hesitated, but Abigail's resolute gaze made her nod. "Understood, ma'am. We're behind you." At the Pentagon, Lieutenant Colonel Rachel Nguyen and Colonel Marcus Webb monitored developments. Rachel, glued to her screen, reported, "The video's gone viral. The nation's in an uproar. Civil rights groups, veterans, even senators are demanding justice." Marcus nodded, eyes on the map. "Good. Preserve all evidence. I want those deputies and anyone backing them held accountable." By noon the next day, Barksdale's gates were swarmed with cameras and microphones. Reporters buzzed like a hive, the air hot and charged with anticipation. Abigail emerged in full dress uniform, medals gleaming, shoulders square, gaze unflinching. The crowd hushed, only camera clicks and the breeze breaking the silence. Ethan stood nearby, protective, as Pentagon officials flanked her, faces stern. Abigail stepped to the podium, hands on the mic, her voice clear and powerful, drowning out the hum. "Yesterday, I was treated not as a person, not as an officer who served this nation for 25 years, but as a threat because of who I am. I was cuffed, shoved against a car, humiliated before a crowd, not for doing wrong, but because of blind prejudice." She paused, her gaze sweeping the crowd, reporters, locals, people with signs reading "Justice for All." "I'm not here for an apology," she continued, voice cutting like a blade. "Apologies don't undo what happened, don't erase the pain of millions treated like me. I'm here to demand accountability from those who abuse power, who judge others at a glance. A young reporter from New Orleans raised her hand. "Ma'am, do you believe this was racial discrimination?" Abigail met her eyes, unflinching. "I don't believe, I know. When my ID was tossed aside, my words ignored, that wasn't a mistake. It was deep-rooted bias, and it must be exposed." The crowd applauded, the sound swelling into a wave. An elderly veteran in a worn jacket shouted, "You're right, they can't deny it." Abigail raised a hand for silence. "This isn't just my story," she said, voice low but resonant. "It's the story of those doubted, demeaned, stripped of dignity for looking different. I'm here to tell them, you're not invisible. Your voices have power, and we won't stay silent." The applause erupted again, louder, a declaration. Abigail caught the eye of a young girl holding a Dignity for All sign, tears glistening. She nodded faintly, a silent vow. In Greystone, the sheriff's office was in chaos. Sheriff Thompson faced a barrage of microphones, sweat dripping. "We're investigating," he stammered. "It was an unfortunate incident." A reporter cut in. "Unfortunate? A major general cuffed for her skin color, and you call it unfortunate? What will you do to fix this?" Larry backed away, speechless. Jake and Matt had vanished from town, but their names were dragged across social media. Old complaints of their abuse and bias resurfaced, plunging the department into crisis. Abigail stepped off the podium, ignoring further questions. She moved through the crowd, each step resolute, carrying the weight of a story beyond her own. Ethan walked beside her, voice soft but firm. "You did it, ma'am. The nation's listening." Abigail paused, turning to him. "This is just the start, Colonel. Justice doesn't come from a speech. It comes when we keep fighting." She walked on, eyes forward as the sunset faded. The world wouldn't change overnight, but today she'd lit a spark, a fire of truth, dignity, and hope for those long ignored. Abigail Harper's story is a powerful reminder of the strength of truth and resilience in the face of injustice. Despite prejudice and humiliation, she stood unyielding, using her voice to demand justice and dignity. Her lesson is clear. Injustice cannot prevail if we dare to confront it, daring to speak the truth even with a trembling voice. Each of us holds the power to spark change by refusing to stay silent in the face of wrong. This story isn't just Abigail's. It belongs to all who've been doubted or demeaned for their appearance or origins. It reminds us that justice requires action, not just words. Listen, share, and act to build a fairer world. Like, share, and subscribe for more inspiring stories where truth always triumphs.